Hi guys, and welcome back to the channel and part 9 of the annular monoplane build. And I'm going to sand these leading edges because it's been bugging me now and it's time to do it. I really must, so I'm getting on with that. And I've got a bit of pressure now to get the model done as much as possible because I've got a new project coming soon and I really do need to start it. So yep, let me bend you down as usual and you can see what I'm doing. Because it's laminated and I've got ply in there, it's just a matter of using the coarse side of this, and it is coarse. My technique is to take it down to pretty much level where it has to be on the rib, between the ribs, and then bring the rest down in between. Seems to be working. And I also have to think which is the leading edge. This is leading edge and this is sort of neutral, and then it sort of would turn into the trailing edge, but for the fact it's got all the built up bits on it, so I'm going to sort of feather it in a little bit further down. The other thing I've noticed is the ribs, because they were produced sandwich method, the tops of them are at an angle. So what I think I might do is just to stick a thin strip of wood on the top of each rib, just coming back a little way, just to get that angle flat, because otherwise when I cover it you're just going to see a thin line and it won't look very good at all. So anyway, let's do a bit of sanding. It's quite easy because when you look across you can see the thickness of the wood. If there's any lumps in it you can see exactly where you need to sand. And I'm not sanding like that, I'm more on the edge, but actually, or at least I was on the inside one, but in this one I could probably put it flatter. When I've gone all the way around, then I can start rounding up the leading edge. Right, let's keep going on this side, I think. Okay, gone all the way around, and that's nice because it starts thick and as it goes around it gets medium, and then as thin as it's going to get on the inside edge. This is the trailing edge, so it starts thin and as it comes around it gets thicker and thicker and thicker till it's the leading edge. So I'm going to now build up some of these ribs. That one's okay. A couple of these I'm just going to build up and get it really nice, and possibly, yeah, on the front as well. The ribs are at quite a steep angle. Okay, welcome back guys. So I've sanded the whole thing, sanded, leading edges, trailing edges, and I really must put the blocks in for these rigging wires. So just sort of line that up. So there's actually 10 rigging wires, five pairs on each side. Actually, yeah, 5 pairs. And they don't go into any details, it's just how it falls. And you've got to make your own ideas up. So they do give you a bit of an idea. Triangular blocks in the corner and the rigging wires sort of go down through there. So what I thought was, I've made these triangular blocks up just from a bit of 3/8 square and sliced it down the middle. So if I glue that in there, I've just filed a slot in the back, okay, because I'm going to sit a piece of tube, plastic tube in this case. I did check my other tubings out, but plastic is what it's going to be. And I'm going to glue that in there to the required depth after I've glued these blocks in and sanded them to shape. Then I'll cut a piece of plastic. So the rigging wires are going to be just my normal cotton that I use. It's sort of heavyweight milliner's cotton or whatever it is, really incredibly strong stuff, and that will cause minimum drag. So that's going to pass through when I cut just now, that'll pass through the wing at the bottom to the bottom fixing. As the rigging wire is functional, it slide in and out isn't going to make any it's not going to help at all. So I've got this smaller piece of plastic which I'm going to cut a short length and push it in there once I've got the wing in the required position, and this will hold it in place. It can't pull in and out, and the beauty of this is I can pull I'll probably have to tap it out from the below, but I can push it out, adjust the wing slightly to a different position, and then push my little peg back in, and it'll hold it tight. I might have to just sand this ever so slightly, but I think that worked really well. So stage one is to glue these triangular pieces in, and then I can come back and glue these pieces in, tubes in. And I'm guessing actually CA will do the job as well as anything. And then I can come along and sand that to shape. So let's carry on here a minute. I'll just take off the top with a piece of, flatten it off a minute, like that. And using my rat tail file, that goes in there, and then that will slide down. If it's a bit tight, I can always run the file down there anyway. That's 2 down. How many are there? 2, 4, 6, 10, 20. I've got 20 in all, so I'll carry on here, guys, and I'll come back to you in a minute. Actually, after I've done this, just before you go, I've got to, I think the next thing will be to get the servos in position in the back of the wing and knock some holes through for the wires. Yeah, so when I've got these in and I've sanded them, or just finishing the sanding, I'll come back to you and we'll have a look at the servos and try and see how we're going to mount those. Okay, all the rigging wire slots are in. It's 20 in all. And now I'm looking at the servo and I'm thinking there's a little ball race servo. Maybe put it down here. I like the servos to face 90 degrees to the control surface. Not like that. It'll still work, but I prefer to have it 90 degrees to the control surface, even though the ribs are going that way. So I've got to make up some sort of little servo holder. I don't want it to be too chunky because it's going to sort of impede a little bit into the finish. So I'm going to give this some thought and then I'll come back to you and show you what I've done. Cheers, guys. Right, what I've done is I've made a little plate out of this incredibly hard 1/8 balsa and dremelled a hole through it, and I'm just going to glue the servo directly to there, and then this is going to be screwed in. So this is going to be screwed in from underneath, so that'll fit in there like that, and then the servo arm will just come out and operate straight down to a horn that I'll let into the elevon. So quite pleased with that. I'm just going to drill 4 little holes and put some screws in, little tiny screws, and then take them out, put some CA in and let it set. Get the balsa nice and hard in there. So now I can put some holes through these ribs to bring the wire through. Is there any advantage? Let's say, just looking at the fuselage, I do have a former, so maybe I want to keep the holes between those two. No, just behind that one there. There's a former about there, so I've got to, about here will do nicely. And it won't get caught up in the pull to the rudder so much. Yeah, just behind. Anywhere here will do lovely. And I'll make a corresponding hole in the fuselage. And then when I glue the wing on, all the wire will be there. I'll have to plug an extension on, pull it all through and glue the wing on. One elevon with fishing line hinges, 1mm, 3 off. Just small drill holes into the balsa at the required place, gives me a hinge. And I've cut out some horns on the laser, 1/16 ply. They go into a slot in the bottom of this block. Again, well, that will be after I covered it. The servo will be easily removed with the plate, 4 screws, nice and simple. There's a slot for the horn, by the way. Plenty of throw, and all the little rigging wire slots are in. So that's the wings done. There's no more to do on those, but I'll cover them. So the next step is going to be looking at the fuselage again. Hello, old friend. Have you missed me? I've got to sand. Let's go up a little bit, shall we? I've got to sand the top and lower fins to section, and the rudder, which I've temporarily mislaid. I've got a servo to fit in the front compartment, and in fact, where do the control wires come out for the rudder on the plan? Let's see a quick look at the plan. Yeah, come out pretty high. They're up here and shoot down the fuselage to the rudder servo, which I'm going to mount in there. Battery floor in, rudder servo on its tray in. So now all that's left to do is sheet the bottom of the fuselage. I've got this reasonably hard 1/16, and I'm going to just run that down. I've put a cross piece in here and trim back the ledges that were here. I don't see the point of ending the sheet here, so I'll put a bit of support in there, and that will glue on there. Not so easy outside. And a little bit in there. Okay, it'll be trimmed off either side as soon as it's dry. That's fine. Right, now, is it holding itself down onto the fuselage? It pretty much is. This glue's got a good grab on it. Now, there's a couple of ways you can tackle this. You could sand and sand and sand, or you could run the knife along the edge, turning the fuselage as you go, so as you're actually pressing on the cutting board below. By the way, in case you were wondering when I sheeted the bottom why I didn't go lengthwise, it was just split in the middle. As soon as you pushed in the middle, it would just crack it. This has got 1,000 times more strength. Something else I wanted to make, they've got some lovely little seats inside here, and also need to make a steering wheel. It looks like a steering wheel. A joystick to go in the back here. It's quite a prominent feature. And the two seats, the seats are just curved backs, flat bottom, very basic seats. I hope our man put a cushion in there. It's been a bit of a rattly old ride. So, but construction wise, do you know what? Construction wise, it's finished. I cut the slots for the closed loop. The way I do it, to guarantee that they're in the right position, once the servo's fitted, I just get anything. Here's a bit of carbon, look, and I can see inside the fuselage. So, and I knew where I fitted the control horn on the rudder. So, just by laying that on the servo and laying that on the control horn, I can see precisely where it comes out the fuselage. So that's my height. And then the same technique, I can see the servo, put that on there, put that on the horn, and see where it comes out and how long it has to be. And that's just a case of cutting the slot and using a round file to get in there like that. And so it should be in the right position for the closed loop. If it's not, we'll have to amend it slightly, but there you go. Okay, welcome back. Templates, seat. Now I'm going to paint that brown and pop that one in the front. The back seat won't be visible because I'm going to have a pilot in there. In fact, you won't see anything off the seat at all, so I'm only going to make the one. I've decided I'm going to go for Doculum and tissue. I've got some very pale looking tissue here, I've got plenty, so I'm going to use this. And I like the texture of this, and I think I've got, well, 4 sheets should be enough. So I'm going to start with Doculum in the, I'm going to test it out first of all, the tail feathers. These, well, they aren't the tail feathers, just these bits, and see how I get on with it. And if everything's good, then I'll cover the wings. Incidentally, I don't know if you've seen this, I've made a retaining, I've got a pin in there, so you pop off the top hatch, pull the pin out like that, and then you reach in, and I've got a little piece to press on, got a peg at the back, so that's nice and solid. That goes in there, then the pin goes in the hole. If I give it in at the right angle, there we go, and then the front hatch goes on, so it's retained good and solid. So let's start. Set for 110. I'll leave it at that for a minute. And let's get Doculum in. Very lucky to have a local supplier of this stuff. Very lucky indeed. That fit in lengthwise? Look at that. Okay. Cut off enough for both sides. And I'm going to apply the tissue with, not with dope, but with matte varnish. Not matte varnish, what do you call it? And apply it with water-based varnish. Now this bottom bit keys into the fuselage, so I really don't want to cover that. So I'm going to come up a little bit. Doculum does shrink a little, so you want to put it on as tight as you can, really. Also goes clear when you apply the heat, so you can see exactly where you've been, which is quite nice. Why put Doculum on first, you might ask? It's to give the tissue, it serves two purposes really. One, the tissue has more strength for like punches, and two, it doesn't suffer from high humidity because it's covered in plastic and it can't go anywhere, can't sag because the plastic is holding it in place. Now on this I've got to remember I've got the, let's just come away from there actually, I've got the tail skid to go in there. Actually, it does blunt your scalpel quite quickly. Not quite sure why. Whether it's the glue or plastic, I'm not sure. It's great to be on the homeward stretch. I had a real push on this model this week. I'm not going to put Doculum on the sheeted parts of the fuselage, just the open framework. I'll tissue directly onto the closed body. Right, now I'm actually going to stop and I'm going to tissue it, get it all done in one go. We'll see how it goes on. This is it's an off-white colour, very off-white, but it is got a slight shade to it. Right, let's just come in there a bit. I'm doing this because I want to see how well it goes on, so it's a bit of an experiment really. Going to go on there, and I want a straight edge along there, leaving the balsa clear. Right, I've transferred some. I'll tell you something funny. I couldn't get the tin open. This is what I'm using: Ron Seal interior varnish, quick dry in finish. I couldn't get the lid off; it was stuck. So I went outside, I poured boiling water over it all the way around. I could hear it hissing and what have you. And I just stood back and it went boom and blew off, which was rather exciting. I'm glad I did it outside. Okay, this brush is a bit overkill, but it'll get the job done. Let's see how well it goes on really. So it is an experiment. It's also very similar colour to the tissue, you'll notice, which is good. Looking nice, very nice. You see, because it's already stretched, because it's on the Doculum, you don't need to put dope on it, but I will spray it with matte lacquer just to get the just to give it a bit of waterproofing. Right, I can't turn it over to cut it because it'll all get roughed up, so I'm just going to leave that for a few minutes, then I'll do the side and turn it over to the other side. But that looks absolutely amazing, beautiful, exactly what I wanted to see. There is something else that I've made. Just let me show you. I can see it. It's here somewhere. There it is. How about that? Well, I made it. Mrs. H painted it. But it's a wicker seat that goes just inside there. Look fantastic. Nobody will be sitting in that one. I've got the fuselage covered with doculum. It's ready for tissuing. Only done the open structure. I've also added a seat in there, look. And I've also got a steering column, made like a steering wheel. I've got in there now as well. So that's ready for tissuing. I've got all the flying surfaces tissued. Beg your pardon. I've got all the flying surfaces covered with doculum ready for tissue, except this one, lower underfin, which I've done, tissued. It's come out beautifully. So as soon as I've got the fuselage done, I can glue that on. That's what the whole aeroplane is going to look like. Beautiful. But now I'm starting the wing. Just thought I'd bring you back in for a minute. The wing is ready to cover with doculum. The doculum isn't wide enough, so I'm going to have to do it in stages. 1, 2, 3, 4, I suppose. So let's just cut some. Okay guys, welcome back, and I've covered both sides of the wing now with doculum, and I'm just going to tighten it out. Tightened out this bit already because I wanted to do the servo area, but so I've upped the temperature and it should tighten out pretty easily on the bottom. The top maybe not quite so easily, but we'll find out in a minute. I'll do a bit this side and I'll switch over. Switch over, it helps prevent any warps. Right, here we go. Let's find out what happens. It might be worth putting the hot air gun on it, being shaped the way it is. Well, just give it a go a minute. See if I can get a technique going. Unless you actually touch the sole onto the film, it won't shrink. Whereas with the hot air gun, it will. But then you also heat up all the periphery, and there's a good chance it will heat up enough to unstick, come away. That's okay. Let's see if I can do a bit more. Too bad. Don't forget, it doesn't have the shrinking power of ordinary film, so you've got to. Oh, that's looking nice. I love the way it goes clear when you heat it up as well. That gives you an idea of it, what's heated and what hasn't. Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Little bit down here. See if I can bring that out. When you've got a tiny little panel, the chances of it coming out are slim because there's not much there to shrink. It's done a bad job. Looking nice, looking very nice. What's that ridge under my finger? Let's just have a look at that. A Okay. The underneath's great, the top. Pretty good, except just a little bit there. And that's not bad, is it, for an unusual shaped wing? Wing's sitting pretty flat though, which is good. That's very good actually. Quite pleased. Pays to sort of do a bit each side as you go. So just let that cool, see what happens. Sometimes when it cools it stretches a bit more. Yeah, it's not too bad. Okay, so there we are then guys. One wing covered. Feels pretty light still, not much weight to it. So that'll be ready for tissuing now. See you in the next video. Thank you very much for watching. If you're not subscribed, hit the subscribe button. It really helps the channel. It doesn't cost anything. And I'd be obliged. So thank you very much for that. And if you are subscribed, give the video a thumbs up. Anyway, okay guys, thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Cheers.